Thank you, Chairman. My question is to the Permanent Secretary. The Home Office, and it's on the data point, the Home Office keeps saying it wants to improve police productivity. It says it wants to drive efficiency. It says it wants to tackle resource pressures. How can you manage what you don't measure? That's my question. And how can you understand the impact of anything on productivity when you simply collect none of the data? Now, through my parliamentary office, I've asked 610 questions of the Home Office since the election. Hundreds were data related. Of those, roughly 90% of the time, there was no data, or it wasn't centrally collected. And frankly, I think that's unacceptable. We now know forces do collect some of this data because we get it through FIs direct from the forces. So I've got a question for you. As an example, let me ask you one direct question, and it's data related, and I'd appreciate a direct answer. So how many illegal migrants have absconded or gone missing from Home Office accommodation in the past 5 years? Do you know the answer to that?
There is this was something that was looked into by the ICIBI recently, and in due course that report will be published.
So I'll take it you don't know that. So, frankly, it's unbelievable, Permanent Secretary, because you don't hold this data. I don't know why not. Is it ideological? Is it incompetence? Why don't we hold it? The British people want this data. But hang on, can I just finish? The British people want this data. They want to know the impact these illegal men are having on their police force's capabilities. How can you claim to be improving productivity when police forces are being loaded with immigration tasks you don't measure, you don't report, and you can't quantify? So will you commit to publishing more of this data?
I think there's been a misunderstanding about the answer to my question. I wasn't saying I didn't know the answer. I was saying there has been a report, and the report will be published in due course.
There's always a report. It's always going to be published in due course. We keep hearing this from the civil service, and frankly, it's not good enough.
It's not my decision on when and whether the report is published.
It's your decision.
It's not my decision.
Okay, well, there are always reports we're waiting for. And this data should be readily available. With AI, it should be much easier now to collect this data. So, that's basically my question, Chairman. I don't see how we can manage police efficiency when we don't have the data. It's impossible. You can't run a business without knowing the data. It's just impossible. And frankly, we get this in meeting after meeting we've had. People don't know the data, so they make bad decisions.
So I've got something to say, and then I think Sam, you want to come in. I think I've got a reasonably good record of showing up to this committee and giving as much data as I'm able to give. On your particular question, I'm saying that there is an ICIBI report which is due to be published at some point. It is not my decision not to give that number now. That's what I'm telling you, what I can tell you. I completely agree that in order to understand anything, you have to understand the data, and that is why we are setting up frameworks and a new team that exists in order to gather more data on police performance, and Andy himself in the college gathers a lot of data on that, and presumably we're going to go on to talking about productivity data, and that's a good example. But there's no question, if you're running an organisation, you need to understand the data on which that organisation runs, and that is what we are already seeking to do.
Well, I run multiple organisations, and you're having trouble transitioning an accounting package for the school here. So, that doesn't fill me with great confidence. It's not that difficult to transition an accounting package, frankly. And I find it incredible that can't happen. And I ask these simple questions. I never get an answer. 610 questions, 90% with no data. Okay, Where is the data? Where is it?
Well, I'm not knowing what those particular questions were, but what I can say is I have, last time I was in front of the committee, we talked a little bit about data. I have recently written to the Home Affairs Select Committee on some things that I'm doing in the department to improve some of the ways that the department runs. That includes focus on data and on evidence and how we capture it and how we use it. So this is all work in progress. There's a lot that has been done. There's more to do. And in this particular area, we are actively seeking to gather much more granular data, as Richard says, on police forces. This is not something, there's a lot of data sets that one might think we should have been gathering for some time. In practice, for reasons well understood, we haven't been gathering a lot of this information, and so we are now strengthening our ability to do that with new teams gathering new information, and we hope therefore to be able to understand better what is happening at force level. But if I may, Chair, I'll ask Sir Andy to say something.
So I was going to start, Chair, by agreeing how important data is. When I was Chief Constable of Hampshire, it was the fourth cheapest per head of population and top quartile performing force. Even Somerset, where I was Chief Constable there, was regarded as good on the PEEL, which is the HMIC assessment criteria of efficiency. And probably the single most important reason why it was good is that we managed to federate and connect all of our data sources across all the force to find out exactly what was hurting and what was working with our processes and our people and our teams, and part of the organisation we could make decisions about how we spend our money. Now, if we come back to my role at the College of Policing, it's responsible for leadership, standards and performance in policing, those three things. We have set up the National Centre for Police Productivity with a direct grant from the Home Office. Recognising your point, actually, we're going to be hampered in understanding what's hurting and what's working unless we can master that data. So we've worked with system leaders from across the whole of policing, which might sound a simple issue, but I suspect we're going to come on to police reform in a moment. You've got 43 Home Office police forces and a lot of other actors as well. And the work that we've started in the Productivity Centre is now overseen by a Data Reform Board in the Home Office to decide just how do we master this data that would give us such power across policing in England and Wales. Now, the just right element of this is at the moment, forces largely submit data in manual returns. That takes people, it costs money, it's way in the rearview mirrors because you're looking at data that's, as you will know, sometimes weeks or months old. We need to automate the collection of data and then make it accessible to all the decision making so we can make smarter decisions. This work is in hand and it is a priority.
I have to say, I worked with Hampshire Police when I was chairman of Southampton, and they were excellent at their job. I have to say that the Home Office, when I ask questions, are by far the worst at answering my questions. You're the worst offenders in terms of giving me no data, which is disappointing. And hopefully we will start to see the flow of data, because I think it's absolutely essential that we understand the effects that everything's having on policing. You can't really attack police productivity if you don't understand what is influencing and what is diverting police time. Thank you, Chairman. Well, I've got one, I think, for the Permanent Secretary and one for Sir Andy. So I had a look at your profile, Dame Antonia, and I'm not a great man on doing research, but it didn't take me very long to find out that many in Whitehall and the media call you the Queen of Woke. I mean, do you actually recognise that title?
I'm not convinced that anybody in Whitehall has called me that.
Well, it's driven, I think, by your championing of and proactive implementation of high-paying DE&I roles within the civil service. So I had a quick look.
I'm sorry to interrupt you. I don't know what you're referring to.
Well,
This is
if you dispute that, this is what the media.
I don't know if I've understood.
This is what the media reported. But if I go on my question, I think you'll understand. So I had a quick look, and in 21-2, the police forces spent 15 million on DEI, and there were 147 DEI officers. Whether they're highly paid or lowly paid, I leave that to everybody to judge. In 23-4, there are 197. So the DEI virus is growing within the police force. So are you championing the growth of these DEI roles? That's my first question, quite apart from the fact it's costing a lot of money. And my second question, because I get a lot of policemen coming to see me in my constituency in Great Yarmouth, these are operational policemen, who are very frustrated by this DEI nonsense. No, but Geoffrey, this is quite important because they come to see me because they think the police are being made less efficient by the cant that's coming from the top of the police force, which clearly is coming from somewhere. So my question is, does it make them operationally less efficient? And I've then got in a moment an observation on procurement, but those were my two questions.
To whom is your question? So,
well, are you driving the DEI agenda within the police force?
I think there might be a misunderstanding about the extent to which I determine who works on what in police forces.
Well, is it coming? It comes from the top, Dame Antonia. The culture comes from the top.
No. The decision about what resources work on what in police forces are a matter for the forces.
Are you keen to see more DEI implemented throughout the police?
I don't. That's not. I don't see. That's not a relevant question. I mean, I'm sure the chair is going to want to intervene at this point.
It's costing money, and it's also arguably making the police less efficient, which is why I'm asking that question.
My job is to allocate funding to the forces, and therefore, and obviously in support of the Home Secretary, and therefore ensure the police are delivering. That's why we're here. That's why we're doing all this work. I don't recognise the thing you said at the opening of your thing about something I was meant to have championed. I don't know where that's come from.
You're not driving the DEI agenda. Is there an active DEI agenda being promoted within the police force?
Well, this is getting on towards policy, Rupert.
Well, not really, because I think it does affect the operational efficiency.
I think your first question about how many DEI officers and how much was being spent.
It's gone up, Geoffrey, and it's
give us a figure,
cost.
and let's let somebody answer the question.
I think it's undermining confidence of the actual operational police.
I understand the point that Mr. Lowe's making. To give the accurate figures for the College of Policing, we employ 5 people who could be described as being involved in diversity, equality and inclusion. That's reducing to 3 in March. And actually that is to fulfil our lawful requirement around equality. That's the simple purpose of that. Now, we talk about the College of Policing, and we're a body that holds the evidence base of what works, and we're responsible for improving standards in policing, driving performance and developing leadership. And I'm really happy to answer questions on any of them. But actually everything that we do must be about increasing the utility of policing to the public, to cut crime, keep people safe. I am a straightforward police officer. That's what I'm trying to do at the College of Policing. So whilst I understand the concern you expressed to me, I don't recognise it within that body in policing.
Okay, well, I am concerned about it because from my feedback from police officers on the ground in Great Yarmouth, I definitely, that is an issue. Yeah. On general procurement, I do think, we talked about this earlier, that there is a logic in standardising across the police force the same equipment. I'm never in favour, running my businesses, of centralising all buying. I think that just leads to fraud. I like competing buyers, and I think you could actually introduce a very interesting concept of actually standardising the equipment and then devolving various buyers to compete with each other and see if they can't procure the best price for the police force. So you actually introduce a degree of free market competition within the various ACPO parties. So that would, as an observation more than a question.
Should we just get an answer to that? Does anybody have an answer to that? Standardised equipment, but allowing police forces greater flexibility as to where they buy it from.
Well, Bethan already answered the question because she talked about frameworks, purchasing frameworks, not just only one monopoly provider.
Anything else you want to add?
No, I mean, just as I say, kind of continue to make sure that we've got that good market intelligence around what pricing looks like. That
you're not looking to centralise purchasing, you're looking to...
So I think I have said there are, in some of the categories we're looking at, we are looking and we are testing whether centralised purchasing works for those commodities.
Right.
But helpful to understand your kind of observation and make sure that we have a competitive strategy and that we keep a kind of robust and flourishing market.
And if I might add, Chair, the some equipment that we hold has a technical specification which is consistent and makes it interoperable and acceptable for use in England and Wales. I agree with you that sometimes it's very helpful to have a number of people competing for that market rather than a sole monopoly provider.
I agree. If you do it, if it's handled properly.
If it's handled properly, yeah.
But it needs to be managed.